Hey everyone, it is peach season in upstate New York. So I wanted to take you on a trip to a local farm where I got some peaches, and then nearby Lake Ontario, I had to stop and check out Crawl Park. And this is one of the ways that I try to get inspired in my art. And here is my peach haul that I used as inspiration. So after a relaxing day of finding some peaches and checking out the lake, I was ready to start painting. My process was to set some tracing paper over the watercolor paper and get a rough sketch done. And then, as you can see here, I'm transferring that sketch onto the watercolor paper. And that's just a great way for me to protect my paper from all of the erasing that I do. And then I tried to mix up an array of colors. So there's a yellow, peach, orange, pink, red, green, just really trying to get a range of colors to, simulate the look of a peach. Once I have my paints mixed up, I'm going to put down some clean water in a peach, and then I'll take my base color, which is this kind of golden yellow, and I will drop that in and let the paint and the water sort of mix. Maybe I'm doing a little bit of overworking the paint here, but I want to make sure that the yellow is getting to all corners. And from there, I'm going to go in with that creamier yellow there as well, and just let the colors sort of mix and blend. And where you have the crease in the peach, I want to lay down some of the initial, like the darker color, so you can see the shadow that crease would, create. And I'm also going to put in that sort of peachy light pink as well, and just, let the water and the paints kind of mix together and form something visually appealing. And then I'm going to drop in the really darker red color. And again, you'll see me sort of making decisions about, where I want to have sort of the darker colors and where I want the lighter colors to be. And whenever I feel like I've put maybe too dark of a color, or I want to sort of buff things out a little bit to create maybe a more subtle color mix, you'll see me clean off my brush and just go in with like the damp clean brush, and sometimes lift up the paint and then sometimes just kind of let it mix. And so you'll see I'm just kind of experimenting. I'm not really sure how exactly I want this peach to look. Just kind of like the first layer is a little bit like experimentation and just getting the paints down, and I'll see how it looks once it dries. So I'm going to let that first peach dry, and I'm going to follow the same process for the next peach. And so you can see me just putting down a layer of, basically clean water. It's got a little bit of a peach look to it, but at least you can kind of see better how that water is on the paint, on the page anyway, when I have it tinted somewhat. And so again, following the same process, I'm going to put in the lightest color first, which is that yellow. And from there, I will start mixing in, like going up the scale, darker and darker colors, and, kind of try to make it look different from the other peach. I don't want them to look too identical, even though I'm following the same process. And you'll see one of the things I tried with this peach is to put the darker colors almost like a curve in sort of the center and off center actually as well. there. So I'm kind of doing almost like C curves somewhat. And I feel like that is one way where I'm trying to represent to the viewer that that is a rounded object, so that, like, you know, sort of the shadow or the darker bits of the peach are going to be on a C curve. It gives it more of a 3D rounded effect, I think. This one I wanted to look fairly different from the other peach, so I actually spent a little bit more time while this peach was still wet, just building up layers upon layers and really trying to deepen the appearance of the dark spots on the peach. So I'll just kind of, you know, quit talking and let you watch how I did that. So now that I finished the first layer of the two whole peaches, I'm gonna move on to the two peach slices that I wanted to include in this illustration. And you can see I'm going right in with the color of the, you know, the inside of the peach, that kind of peachy orange. And I'm painting both slices at the same time. I'm going to be using some wet into wet technique here. And so I want them both to be wet simultaneously. And I'm going to switch to a smaller brush so that I have a little bit more control when I put this kind of darker red paint on the edge of, you know, where you would see in the center. The closer you get to the center of the peach, you have the peach pit, and the parts of the peach skin or flesh that touch that are a little bit darker. But I wanted it to have that appearance of, as it gets further away from the peach pit, it lightens up a little bit. And so I feel like the wet into wet is a great way to show that. And then also I wanted a little bit of the skin to show on the side of this peach slice. And so I thought it would look kind of cool again to do that as the peach flesh was still wet, so that you get a really nice kind of natural blend there. So the last kind of view of a peach that I wanted to show in this illustration is if you cut a peach down the center but leave the pit in there. I kind of wanted to have that reflected as well. So again, you see me going in with the peach flesh color that I mixed up, and I'm leaving some space in the center for the peach pit. So I'm gonna let some of the peach pit mix in, some of that color mix in around, but I want not all of it to be mixed, I guess, is so it's a little bit of a combination of, you know, dry paint, you know, I guess paint onto dry and then wet into wet as well. So that's kind of how I'm trying to create sort of a more natural look for the peach pit. I'll have to go in and put like a little bit of a darker layer in the center when all of this dries. And then you also see me, while the flesh is still wet, I am painting the skin that you would be able to see. Okay, so I have a first layer of each of my illustrations of a peach, and my whole peaches have obviously dried. So at this point, I'm going to go paint onto the dry paint, and I'm going to be following some of the guidelines that I had put down when I did wet into wet. So where the parts of the peach were already a little bit darker, I'm just going to be bringing up that darkness a little bit more. One of the other things I'll do is paint in that, what do you call it, like the crease that you see on the peach. I'm going to be adding that in as well, and with somewhat of a darker paint. So I've got, I'm trying to just paint in a very delicate line, but I won't like to have that line, I guess, harsh, I think is the word I'm looking for. So I'll let that line dry, but you'll notice that I will later go around and buff it out by basically cleaning off my brush and then, scrubbing along the paint. I think it's kind of dried a little bit there. You see me just, kind of wiping some of the paint off and just scrubbing alongside of that line that I had painted, just to give it, again, like more of a natural look. It looks more like a shadow instead of just like a line that I drew onto there. And then I just sort of move around and touch up various parts. Now that all of these pieces of the illustration are dry, I can sort of move around from illustration to illustration. Just like with my other whole peach, I also want to have a crease on this peach as well and show where there's like a little bit of a divot. And again, that involves my strategy of just putting a little bit of paint onto there and then buffing it out with a clean brush. And I'll just kind of stop talking again and let you watch my process. As you saw, I spent a lot of time building up the peach skin. I completely forgot to hit play when I painted that peach leaf, but you'll see I added the leaf, and then I also on the other peach added a little bit of brown in that divot where the stem would have attached to the peach. And I'm doing a little bit of just fixing things up, maybe being a little too type A here, too much of a perfectionist, I think. I decided to add some lettering to my illustration as well. So I wrote out peach season in pencil, and you can see I'm going over that with pen now. And then I also did what's called faux calligraphy. So every time your pen, as you were writing, goes downwards or like towards yourself, you want to thicken that line. So that's what I'm doing on each one of these letters. I'm thinking about when my pen went towards me as I was writing it in cursive, and I'm trying to thicken each one of those lines. And I think it creates kind of a nice calligraphy effect as well. Here's my final product in honor of peach season. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you want to continue to see content like this, please go ahead and click the like and subscribe buttons. Thanks so much for watching.